Not that, YouTube videos are a solution to any of these problems, but if I was going to do something with my particular set of skills, helping increase evidence literacy is the thing that I wanted to do.
If you report on science, you always want to spend more time talking about the process. People just want the headline of what did they find? For us, we always sort of found it more fascinating. How did they get there? And sort of the human drama of that process.
This week on Influence, we ask and answer one simple question. Where do facts come from? Greetings, Internet travelers. Welcome back to Influence with me, Matt Silverman. Thanks for spending another week here on the Information Superhighway. And I got a question for you. Remember books? Remember you'd get a book at the library or here's one. My son, I would say as we speak, he is at the book fair at his school. And I'm going to say 98% of what he's going to get at the book fair will be Pokemon related. But that last 2%, I'm going to say is going to be like a fact book. It's going to be like a book that's like amazing animal facts. And you're going to go through it and it's going to be like ants can talk to each other with chemicals. Whoa. And he's going to be like, this is so cool. And I'm going to say, that's so cool. And when you're a kid, you're like, I love facts about cool stuff. And then as you get bigger, you're like, wait a minute. How the fuck do they know that? How do they know about those chemical things? Like what is the process for knowing these facts? And I'm going to say putting facts on the internet, that's a dicey proposition these days. That's a complicated issue that we cover with great depth on this program. I'm very excited for this episode because typically I bring you one guest, sometimes zero guests. But let me tell you something. Today I have two guests. You paid for one, but you're going to get two. They are two extremely talented video journalists who have been putting thought-provoking questions and answers, and then sometimes more questions, right? They've been putting those on the internet for many years in many forms. I was thrilled that last year, it's actually been almost a year. We'll talk about that in a minute. Last year, they joined forces to create a YouTube channel and other stuff called Howtown, which is, it's a channel that doesn't just ask and answer questions, but it explains how do we know the answers to questions at all? In other words, to put it in their words, where do facts come from? It's probably going to be the title of the episode. We'll see. The answer, of course, is it's very complicated. But as we've covered on the show, that is what video essays are for. Please welcome Joss Fong and Adam Cole of Howtown to Influence. Welcome. Hello.
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 Great to be here.
Great meeting you. The studio audience is going crazy, of course.
They are going absolutely wild for this dynamic duo.
Thanks for doing this, and thanks for doing it together. I'm a huge fan of your work. And why don't you introduce yourselves, and then we'll dig in a little bit.
Sure.
Go ahead, Adam.
Go ahead.
Alphabetical order.
Alphabetical order.
In sync to the point of it being a problem.
I want the listeners to know they joined the call at the exact same millisecond, but they are not even in the same country. So we'll talk about that in a moment as well.
I'm Adam, half of Howtown. I'm not sure if you want some biographical details.
Give us your 10,000 foot summary briefly.
Sure. Well, I got started in science journalism at NPR, was there for about 8 years, then went over to work on Vox's Netflix show, Explained, and then did some freelancing, at which point Joss and I decided to team up.
Okay.
And I'm Joss. If anybody knows me, they probably know me from Vox, where I worked for about a decade. Making explainer videos and sort of getting that team up and running. And I'm interested in all things evidence-based. I'm very online and very concerned about the information ecosystem. And not that, YouTube videos are a solution to any of these problems, but if I was going to, do something with my particular set of skills, helping increase evidence literacy is the thing that I wanted to do. And Adam is the person I wanted to do it with.
Ooh, evidence literacy. My goodness, I need to steal that term. Did you coin this, or is this because
I can't imagine that I
talk
did.
about media. We all talk about media literacy, but evidence literacy is a really good term.
Yeah, it's a little more specific than science literacy, which I think we hear a lot. And, there are researchers who test science literacy by giving people basically little quizzes about science facts in a variety of fields. But we don't really think of science literacy that way. We think of it more as the understanding of a process that leads to knowledge over time.
Right.
And it's messy. And that's kind of the process that we wanted to center in our work, rather than just focusing on the cool findings that get published and the headlines that come out of that. We really wanted to focus on the messy process that leads to that, or doesn't.
Right. Showing the work, which is what the channel is mostly about, which I love so much. All right, so I want to get into your backgrounds and history, but before we do, I want to play a few clips of Howtown videos, because for anyone who is not familiar, you need to understand and listen to some of Joss and Adam's work, and then we'll dig into the details. So here are some recent videos from Howtown.
There's this myth that won't go away that dogs only see in black and white, but that's just not true. There's a bunch of apps and filters now that claim to show dog color vision. But where does our understanding of this canine rainbow come from? And do these filters really capture how dogs see the world?
Because I was looking for an answer to a question that nobody had an answer to, which was, how bad is this going to get? And now the global death count from the World Health Organization sits at more than 7 million people. And the CDC says that nearly 1.2 million of those happened here in the US. So where did those numbers come from? And how well do they reflect reality? Those kinds of questions are what our little YouTube channel here is designed to answer.
But here at Howtown, we want to get way more precise than that. We want to know how modern scientists got to this exact number. And while we're at it, why is it so close to an even 40,000 kilometers? To answer these questions, we have to confront a fact that's frustrated people for centuries. The Earth isn't actually a sphere.
It really made me wonder, how do you detect pain in animals that don't make faces and don't have voices? And if we think that some animals are sentient, but others aren't, where do we draw the line?
All right, so that's where they are now, but we're coming from NPR and Vox, and I'm realizing now that, did you meet and connect when Vox did the Netflix show? Was that the connection point?
We had met before that. Just, we both lived in DC for a while, crossed paths. But I think the main time when we started working together, because I only worked on the first episode of the Netflix show before Adam came on to do many, many more episodes of Explained. So really, we worked together when Adam started freelancing, and Vox happily took those videos and published them. And my role on those was kind of to give feedback on the scripts and the drafts.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you were collaborating back then. Man, just because I have worked in the media biz for about as long as you both have, and we were doing explainer videos in the olden days as well, but we were modeling them on a vlog style. And then Vox started coming out with these very animated and sophisticated visual styles. And I remember vividly starting to see them, which I'm now blaming you, Joss, for my boss being like, "We got to level our shit up." Like this,
don't blame me. I mean, I had teammates who were designers before they came to our team, and so they really defined the visual style. I was not good at that, and still, not great.
Okay, well, I have questions about how you're making the videos now. And then Adam, you were of course doing science journalism, and was this? Were you were on the air on NPR, or were you doing video production at NPR as well?
Yeah, I started out doing sort of a mix of on-air reporting, for like the NPR science desk. So that would be like, 3-minute pieces you hear on Morning Edition, that kind of thing. And blogging, because blogging was all the rage at that time.
Yes, of course.
And then I actually started a Tumblr for the Science Desk that evolved into a YouTube channel. And so that was sort of after a few years at NPR, I started this YouTube channel, and then I was pretty much fully doing video all the time.
Okay, interesting. Meaning it was successful, and then you sort of had a mandate to keep making internet stuff.
I wouldn't call it successful, but I would call it the people around me were very generous to let me pursue it. And I think it was one of those situations where if you're one of the younger people on a team at a legacy media institution, they think you have some insight into different social media platforms, which I did not have, but I certainly was young and looked even younger. So people really let me run with it.
I love this. Okay, so you're spending close to a decade at these established / legacy media companies. And then Netflix. Oh, and I'm sure you can't talk much about the Netflix stuff, but like everyone who I know who has ever touched Netflix is like, it's a black box. We made it. We have no idea how it went, and then they stopped talking to us forever. So like, do you have any perception of like how Explained did on Netflix? Did people watch it? You know what I mean?
I think they watched the first season, and I think that's the story with a lot of Netflix stuff. There was I don't know if it was a leak or like Netflix actually published it, where they put out the numbers for the top or maybe all their shows. And I looked at that spreadsheet, and now I cannot remember anything that I learned from it. But it was millions of people watching.
Stranger Things, and then everything else below that on Netflix.
That's right.
I assume. Yeah.
I remember we were looking on Twitter for responses. It was like looking for, for us, we're used to publishing on YouTube where you get really too much feedback. But we were, seeing if anyone was tweeting about these episodes to get a sense of whether it was landing at all.
Right.
And little bits here and there.
Yeah. What was really refreshing and cool about that show was that you would see tweets in a wide variety of languages.
Oh,
and that was really new for us.
Huh. Right. Because I guess Netflix does the work to translate or caption in all their markets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. All right. So, so media collaborating at Netflix, et cetera. And then when do you break away, and what's the distance between like moving on in your career to launching this independent project?
They were tightly coupled.
Okay.
For me, I'm a real team player. I'm loyal to teams, and I really felt very close to the folks at Vox, which is why I didn't even consider leaving for many, many years. And what it took was like a variety of signals from outside and inside the company that the sort of course of their investment in video was sort of coming to a close. And it just seemed like if I had a couple of colleagues who had jumped out into the creator economy and made it really work really well, that maybe we could have a chance of doing that. And I had been poking Adam, like, I don't know, every few months to be like, what do you think? What do you think? Should we start a channel? Just because I didn't feel like I wanted to do it alone. And our sensibilities are so similar and our interests are so similar that it seemed like he would be such a great collaborator for this. And then we talked to Vox for a while about doing something under their company. And, for lots of reasons that didn't make sense on either end.
Right.
And then it was just, December 2023 that I officially quit. And then we launched. When did we launch?
May of 2024.
It's coming up on a year. We're a couple weeks shy of a year here, I think, from at least the debut video, right? Or the
that was when we published our trailer on May 23rd. Yeah.
So we were working on this for, I guess, over a year before we ever published anything.
And were you like freelancing to pay the bills in between that? Like how I have questions about the economics of running a channel like this. So we'll get into that. But what does that look like for you both?
Yeah, we got very lucky in that before these signals started accumulating, Vox was like, "Oh, we'll fund the development of a channel idea." What we made was not really what we currently are making, but it was a really helpful exercise, partly just to see how well we work together, and like, there's a lot of just questions that aren't related to the content that you have to work through when you start this. And we got to do that in the cozy embrace of Vox, which was very, very nice.
You got a fully funded test balloon to figure out to work out the kinks. That's great.
Yeah,
that's huge.
So Joss was still on staff. I was still freelancing a little bit, and so when we really fully committed to this was more like January, February of 2024, where we stopped working on other things, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and we continued to pick up little gigs here and there, nothing that would take too much time, but consulting and speaking, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, great. All right, so the inspiration for the channel, like it's very apparent to me that that as journalists and curious people, like where this idea comes from, but like how did you hone in on it? Like you're working on this other thing and it's informing what you're doing now, but it's not quite there. Like was there a eureka moment or in this conversation?
I don't think that there was a specific moment. It's sort of like if you report on science, you always, or at least we always, want to spend more time talking about the process. And there's, I think, maybe a little bit of a fear that people just want the headline of what did they find?
Right.
Whereas for us, we always sort of found it more fascinating. How did they get there? And sort of the human drama of that process, and also just the cleverness of like seeing kind of a intractable problem and figuring out a way around it.
Yep.
And so we always talked about like we like methods.
We like methods, and I think if you look at our work for like a long time, the focus has been on methods.
It really has, yeah.
And so I've always dreamed of doing a series like this. Actually, I pitched it to Vox many years ago, and it was like called Methods, and it was just so dry, and I wasn't really. Yeah, I don't know. The packaging continues to be a challenge. Like, how do you communicate what this thing is in a small number of words? It's not super easy, but yeah, I think both of us have been focused on methods in our work and just looking for an opportunity to center them more clearly, that this is not just a science channel, but this is a very specific kind of science channel, and maybe not even something that looks science-y necessarily, although it depends on the story. But yeah, I think the pandemic and the crisis of misinformation around that was also, I think, an impetus for at least the urgency that I felt around this mission. And then I think also the urgency that a lot of other people have brought as audience members to appreciate what we're doing because of what we saw. This whiplash from experts and this lack of understanding of how we would even know what would work when you're addressing something like a viral disease. So all of those things came together to make it make sense to do this in this way.
To do it at this time. And then the other thing I think about, which you're touching on in terms of just like audience perception, is like the video essay as a medium has matured and become a staple of the internet diet now. And you, Joss, you've been doing it for a long time, but like I think now today as audience members, we are watching video essays about, like I watch stuff about video games all the time, and it's like, whoa, look at the pixels over here, and this is how the program. Did you know that Space Invaders they speed up because there's less Space Invaders when they move down the thing because of programming limitations? I'm like, great, I'll watch this for 2 hours. This is great, like. We're ready. We've arrived at this consumption method, and you are both here doing important work, in my opinion.
It's interesting because I don't think I ever thought of it as a video essay because I guess when I think of video essays, I think of an argument, and it's usually an argument about some cultural trend. And I guess I've always just more identified these as reported explainers. And I guess that gets to the question of like, how do we bucket all of these different types of media that are coming across our feeds? And is it important for us to try to categorize them, or does it not really matter? They're all videos in the end.
Right.
I don't know.
And the word documentary also feels like it's adjacent. It's touching.
It's adjacent. Some people have used that word, but in my mind, documentary is based on a videographer's work. Like you need to be capturing something and capturing something new that's happening in the world, which is not something that we do either. So
yeah. You're
we don't really leave
the
our
media as
apartments.
opposed to capturing it and putting it together.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah,
All right,
I think-
we
I
have
think for-
ambitions to,
For documentary filmmakers, the kind of narration that we do is completely overbearing and aesthetically wrong.
yeah.
Let's talk about the production values. Audio listeners have just heard snippets of the narration and the discussion of your clips, but like you could have done some talking heads and maybe a couple graphics. You could have done, maybe one intro animation and then the rest is explained. But like what I'm seeing here is like it's truly off the charts in terms of cinematic lighting, like animation throughout of not only data but of like visual aids and stuff like that. Like it's very hard for me to express to audio listeners like how sophisticated the work is. So like how the hell are
Just
you doing
imagine
this?
the best thing you've ever seen.
Yeah, right. And then multiply it by 10. But
That's
truly,
right.
you are two people. And so my questions as someone who aspires to make some of this stuff is like, how the heck are you doing this? And do you have freelancers, a team? Is it all you? Like, what is going on here?
Well, part of the trick is that we don't produce much. We work for a long time on each of these episodes.
Roughly
Too long,
one
some
a
would
month,
say.
right? Because
Yeah, we're
you've made
yeah.
14 episodes in a year-ish. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we're about to publish our 14th.
Okay.
15 if you count the trailer.
Okay.
So yeah, we're on a one per month cadence. So that means each of us has 2 months to produce one of these episodes, which is a long time. And we
not.
also are producing some little shorts on the side, which takes up some time as well. But yeah, we started out, it was just the two of us doing everything. And that's sort of how we've always operated. When we were at these legacy institutions, we were mostly doing stuff ourselves. So I think we're comfortable with that process of like, oh, now the string out is done. Now I've got to put on my animator hat and do that part of the puzzle. But we've been lucky to get a grant, which helped us hire for some of these episodes outside
that's
animators.
Great. Cool.
We currently have a very talented guy on contract that is being paid through this grant.
Yeah.
So
May I
now
ask,
have a little bit more help.
Able to say where the grant comes from? Is it like a science nonprofit, or what does that look like?
I'm sure they would love me to tell you that it's the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, which is enhancing public
understanding of science and technology
Science
in the
and
modern
technology in the
I
modern
listen to
era.
NPR too. All right, back off. Was that a connection you had from the old days, or did they come to you? How did that look? How did that?
Well, it turns out it was a connection. I did not really realize, because of NPR's strict firewall, exactly who was funding some of my work there. Okay. But it turns out the person who was helping pay my salary at NPR is now behind this grant.
Cool.
So we talked with sort of new initiative, the Independent Media Initiative, that is trying to bring foundational support to YouTubers. Essentially, they want YouTubers and podcasters to be plugged into this world of public media money.
I love this.
Public media foundations that support public media. Mm-hmm. And so, they connected us with Sloan, and it's been a great partnership.
Because we need to continue making and doing like really good journalism, but then reaching younger audiences who are not necessarily turning on the TV or the radio. And so, diverting that money. I mean, a couple weeks ago, I had Mike Rugnetta from PBS Idea Channel back in the day, who, we had a great conversation of like, nobody was doing what they were doing. And PBS had this mandate of like, hey, we need to what if we put big ideas about culture and society, but put it on YouTube in like a vlog style? And they were like, yeah, we are allocating money for that. So, and that was 10 years ago or whatever now. So it's nice. I guess what I'm saying is it's nice to hear that foundations are like, yes, let's focus here as well.
They're the only one that we know of, right?
Okay. Yeah, Sloan's a little ahead of the curve. I think that there's the hope of this Independent Media Initiative is that will become more of a trend.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, that's really exciting. So in addition to the grant, and in addition to like, hey, these videos have 600,000 views, like that's some revenue. And I'm noticing there are brand partnerships in there as well on some of the videos. And then Patreon. Like, what does the revenue look like? Are y'all paying the rent here? Are you doing okay? What's going on with your livelihoods?
We're doing all right. It's not it's not we don't I don't think we feel like safe
Right.
exactly, but it feels like the trend lines are going in the right direction, and the things you mentioned are basically the three legs of the stool. So we have AdSense revenue, which is like the native ads that you skip over at the beginning of a YouTube video. Then we have sponsorship deals, where we read a 60-second ad or talk about the sponsor within the episode. And then we have Patreon. And so far, they have been about equal in terms of how much they've contributed,
Okay.
each one, to our revenue.
Yeah.
And they're all dwarfed by the grant. So the grant is really what is allowing us to have Charlie, who's our very talented animator right now. And if we didn't have it, I think our incomes would kind of zero out personally, right, Adam?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's both.
Because that's covering some of the overhead and also helping us with production.
It's very uplifting to hear that the ship is is sailing, but also terrifying that, like, wow, the whole thing hinges on this grant. Speaking of Patreon, though, you are. How do you feel about the audience relationship there? What do you feel like you need to provide? I know you sort of do behind the scenes stuff and maybe like more podcast style conversations as bonus content. Like, what does that look like in terms of Patreon tiers and audience reception?
We've tried a mix. We're probably still at the kind of spaghetti at the wall phase of our Patreon community, but we've landed on hanging out with our Patreon members to talk about interesting things. So we do a monthly science paper book club with everyone that's at our $8 tier and up. And that just looks like a Google Meet where we've all read the same paper and we just kind of chew through it. And
like a peer-reviewed journal paper.
Yeah. An open access.
I don't want to read that. I want you to explain that to me. I'm not doing that.
I know. Like, I'm maybe overestimating how much time people have to like sift through these.
Pay us $8 a month to do a bunch of work.
Do homework.
No,
but
well, you don't have to read it. You can show up. You can show up. And actually, we had our latest science paper book club was led by one of our Patreon subscribers.
Oh, cool.
Who happens to have a history in astrophysics. And so he was sort of the facilitator of that. So yeah, it's we aim to make it for sort of like all comers. You can like not have read the paper at all, or you have gotten really in the weeds, and it's fun either way.
But it's selecting for a pretty nerdy, highly educated, very technical group of folks who are really lovely. And I think we're both enjoying just getting to know some of these people. And we've got a Discord. We publish some behind the scenes, how is it made kind of stuff. But it's kind of difficult to get a sense of what people really want or what they're willing to pay for. And the question is always with Patreon, whether you sort of communicate that this is not an exchange, but it's you supporting something that needs your support versus here's what you get if you pay us this much. And so we're kind of maybe in the middle of those two approaches.
Yeah, I had the community manager for Patreon on the show, and I've talked with a lot of creators, and it's like, I don't know, when I support stuff on Patreon, I'm like, here's a buck. I don't want anything. Just keep making things. I don't care about perks. And then I think there's other creators who are like, people are here for the bonus content. They want to hang out with me or whatever. And I find that very interesting. And it sounds like obviously you're still figuring that out. Oh, is the Discord paywalled, or can I hop in there?
Everybody can hop in. There's a couple of rooms in the Discord that are just for members, but
perfect.
The Science Paper Book Club one is open for everybody.
So I have more questions as we go about the audience, and like choir preaching is not quite the term I'm going to use, but like if we're only talking to educated, science literate people, and then the rest of the world doesn't know about you or care about what you're making, how do you feel about that? Not does it matter, but it feels like the tree falling in the woods sometimes with this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's on the margins, really. We are making content that we would like to consume, and we are a couple of earnest nerds. So that's the kind of content that we make. And I think that in addition to sort of getting into the nitty gritty of how things are known, which I think is sort of can be interesting, even if you're not a science nerd. It's like you might have almost a hostile approach to the question of how do they know that, and we're
Right.
providing some insight.
Meaning like, wait a minute, how could they possibly know this? I'm angry
Exactly.
that they're telling me that they know this. Yeah.
Yeah, so that I think sort of invites people in a little bit, and then but on the other part of what we do is we convey our excitement about the information and our sort of human reaction to it. And so my hope is that, you're right. It's probably 90% of the people watching and enjoying our videos are the converted, but there's a few people who are going to see it. And we certainly get a lot of comments from these people who are on the edges of sort of embracing the scientific method.
Well, that's what algorithms and YouTube thumbnails are for. It's like, what's the deal with hot ones, hot sauce, And so people, I imagine, are like, whoa, I love hot ones. What's up with and then they watch, and then they're like, who are these people? This is pretty good.
But the real game changer, and this is just within the past few years, like literally it's so new, is the shorts feed, where people aren't looking at thumbnails. They're not choosing what they watch. They don't have to make any choices at all. And we've found that the shorts feed on YouTube is absolutely introducing us to people who are not otherwise identifying themselves as science folks.
And do they hop over to the channel and watch the other videos?
Rarely.
Sometimes.
But Joss, what you're I just talked about this at my kids' school. They do not choose what they're watching. Right. That is so well said, and I want to I have so many problems with algorithmic short form video. Like it's so important for you as creators to grow, but it's also so like, here's a thing. I don't know who these people are. Are they science communicators and journalists, or are they just random people? Like,
it's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's so bonkers. Yeah. And as long as they are plugged into that feed, us being in that feed gives us a chance to introduce ourselves to people who would otherwise literally never know that we exist. Right. And we've seen that happen. But the drawback of the fact that we are therefore contributing to this feed and making sure that it is an very significant way that people consume media, I think weighs on us ethically and in terms of, are we able to actually do what we want to do even in that space or in that format? And it's been
it goes against our mission. I mean, we want to dig into things with nuance and detail, which is it's impossible. But if you use it as a tool, 120 seconds.
If you use it as a tool to get people there, even if, like you said, it's only 10%, I don't know. Designing a sexy book cover isn't your job as an author, but it's the way to get people to at least notice your book on a shelf. I don't know.
It would be incredibly self-defeating if we weren't doing it, I think.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I have so many more questions, but we have to take a break. But before we take a break, we must do our court-mandated trivia segment where I try to stump not one, but both of my guests today. It's a very simple question. We're talking about the complexity and nuances of big ideas on this here internet. We cover that a lot. And this week's trivia question is pretty simple. It's about language, the English language. You're both familiar with English?
Unfortunately.
Passing familiarity.
Okay, cool. What English word has the most documented definitions, at least according to sources like the Oxford English Dictionary? One of these words has approximately 645 different meanings and counting. Two of them are less so. I'll give you three choices. Are you prepared?
Wow.
Oh, it's multiple choice?
It's multiple choice. Yeah, I wouldn't. Hey, pick any of the billion words in English and let's see if you can get it.
I'm going to display a huge amount of confidence going in so that our defeat is that much more sweet for the listener.
Great. What's on the line? All right. So, here's what I'll say. What are your Patreon tiers?
We have
like the dollars.
Yeah.
Citizens at 4.
Yeah.
We got Howtown Heroes at 8.
Yes.
City Council is 20, and The mayors of Howtown pay a generous $50 a month.
God bless them.
God bless them.
God bless them. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for just turn this off and go check out Howtown and go to the Patreon. But if you get this correct, I want to join the Patreon and jump into the Discord and hopefully get those like fancy Discord channels, right? If you get it wrong, I will unsubscribe to your YouTube channel forever.
Oh, Lord. This is getting so real.
No pressure. Which of these words has 645 meanings, according to modern analysis of the English language? A, the word run. A computer program can be run, a car runs on gasoline, a candidate can run for office, and we can, of course, run in a race. That is choice A. Or is it choice B, set? A set of screwdrivers, we set the table, we tune into some Ed Sullivan on the old TV set. That is choice B. Or is it choice C, take? To acquire something, to take something in, to enjoy some takeout food, or perhaps to have a hot take on the internet. That is choice C. Which of these has... I'll give you some context. They all have a lot of meanings, many meanings, but which of them has the most meanings? 645 and counting.
What do you think, Josh? I'm leaning towards take. Mainly because I once wrote a song that used a bunch of different definitions of take.
Oh, I
So
can't
you're
believe
the
you
one.
have relevant experience to this question. I was leaning towards set, but I think that I'd rather go with take.
Okay.
I don't. Now I feel bad if I'm going to champion the losing answer. But
Well, let's discuss. Do you need to unify on this answer, or can we have two different guesses?
Oh, this is great. I think if
Two different guesses.
Let's get two different
gotta
guesses.
keep
Now
you
we
as
got
a subscriber.
60. Yeah. So if one of us gets it wrong, you unsubscribe, but the other person gets it right, then you join the Patreon as a non-subscriber.
Damn it!
Only
yeah. So
seems
that
fair
sounds
to
good.
me.
I'll say
Okay.
take, and Josh, you'll say
Set.
Okay. We will find out if Adam and Josh got the correct answer after this important break. It's time to thank the people who make this show possible. I assume they're people. They could be chatbots, putting money and putting Bitcoin into the Patreon. I don't know. But let's assume for a minute that they are real live living people. And I would like to thank them right now. Everyone who is at the $5 tier or higher gets thanked on this very program. They include, let's pull up the list here. All right. Sam, Robert Tortorelli, Jolene Jula, Evan, and of course the legacy tier members, William, Duran, Bowie Barks, and Dominic Kerr. Thank you everyone for supporting the show. We know from all our guests how important fan funding is, direct audience participation in the sustainability of your favorite YouTube channels, podcasts, newsletters, TikTok dances. I don't know, whatever you love on the internet, go support it. And speaking of joining a Patreon, we got to find out if Joss and Adam got the trivia question correct. Their entire livelihood depends on whether I remain subscribed or unsubscribed to their YouTube channel. The stakes could not be higher. Let's see what they did. We're back with Adam and Joss, the hosts, creators, animators, researchers, writers, all promoters, marketers, business developmenters of Howtown. Before we went to break, we asked them if they knew the word in the English language with the most definitions, and they had some discussion, some heated debate. I always give guests a chance to change their answer if they've reconsidered after the 2-hour break that we just took for all the ads and sponsorships that we have on this program. Have you reconsidered?
Final answers.
I gotta stick with my gut.
Okay. Adam, you said take because you wrote a song and created many definitions for the word take. Let's talk about this. Was this like 10 years ago you wrote a song? Was this last week? What are we
This was
talking?
probably 10 years ago at least. Yeah, for sure.
Was this for a band or like your own project?
Yeah, I think I was in a little bluegrass band in college.
Nice. Wait, what
so
instrument?
it was-
Mandolin or banjo or something?
That's actually, it was mandolin. Got it
Sweet.
right over here.
Gosh, I love it. I love it. Oh, and for audio listeners, Adam's shelf game is I'm very envious of the situation he's got. Hop over to the video version if you want to see Adam's shelf, or watch Howtown.
It's worth it. What a teaser.
You gotta bring
Gotta
him
see,
in.
you gotta
know.
see shells.
I need shelves
Joss, you said set.
for no reason whatsoever.
I regret to inform both of you that I am clicking unsubscribe on your YouTube channel
No.
because the word
It's
run has been
Unbelievable.
accumulating meanings like bonkers in the modern era. Apparently, it is surpassing set and take and other words like go because we seem to be running faster and faster. We are running a lot of programs and algorithms.
Running for
I don't
office.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is Oxford English
Well, this is
Dictionary,
devastating.
New York Times, Business Insider. According to a variety of sources, run seems to be rapidly evolving in modern English lexicons, taking new meanings every year. Currently, the most definitions at 645. Set was the previous winner at 430. So
It's just beyond belief. Give me
Right?
one of these definitions. Like when we're at like
I
number
know. What's
300.
What's the 645th definition of run?
honestly, this is a great question. I don't have them all listed here. You'll have
How
to.
do they know that is what I want to know.
Listen, I'm a white man telling you a fact on the internet. You have to accept it. Okay?
Right.
Go is next at 368, followed by take at 343. And I found this interesting because set, for example, is not acquiring definitions as quickly as run. Like we are kind of backing away from set as a multi-definition word, and other words are growing. So, and I just found that very fascinating.
Well, coming on your podcast has only hurt our business, it turns out, Matt.
Yep.
Yeah, this is
You'll-
a net negative
you'll get-
so far.
You'll get millions of new subscribers from my listeners, but you'll get one less. From
One
me.
less.
So,
So won't
yeah.
that positive?
just kidding.
I
I'm
guess
joining
that's okay.
I'm joining the Patreon and the Discord for sure. All right. You both know this. The media industry, all of the media industry, but the digital media industry is facing a tough time. It is collapsing. Man, I do a video game podcast, and we were very sad to see that Vox just sold off Polygon, which is, we have some friends who work there. And we keep seeing traditional quote unquote outlets where journalists put text on a page. That business model is all but over. I don't know if you disagree with that statement. It's complicated. And now we see more of that work. Or I said this recently. It's like, if you are putting text on a page, I worry about your job security. But if you are a face or a voice on the internet, and you are then transitioning to a Patreon model where people know you and want to subscribe to your work because they feel connected to you, that is also dicey, but seems more viable. And so, as two people who have sort of escaped from that train wreck and are now doing it, how do you feel about all that stuff?
Well, I would say if it depends on the page you're putting text on.
Sure.
Because there are some publications that are doing really, really well, including the New York Times. If you're there, I think your job security is much better than ours.
I'll clarify. I agree with you. I'll clarify by saying if you're putting text on a page and the audience clicks on it for free in exchange for ads, that business model is rapidly circling the drain.
Yes. The era of unpaywalled journalistic content is really shrinking in a way that's quite sad. And it's just crazy because we're the generation that went from this not existing to being switched on, the internet. And then the experience of watching that unfold since that happened, it feels like we're tumbling down a hill. And the hill is extremely steep. There's no bottom. And we're like trying to have a conversation about what's happening when really we should just be screaming.
As we're falling, we're trying to be like, what the heck?
It's crazy.
Funny. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think there is probably more interesting journalism being done than ever.
Yeah, I agree.
but the ability to recognize it when you see it, or even come across it in the first place, is really, really up for grabs.
Yes.
I wish there were better ways for us to organize, and you are seeing this in newsletters, kind of returning to a curated, kind of edited news experience. And for me, it's been, I keep subscribing to magazines because I love having that package of things that some human decided was important for me to see. The constraints of it are so comforting, and I'm able to focus when I read those articles. But everything else is like really crazy. And the amount of hours that are going into the automated short form feeds is shocking to me.
Right.
It's just shocking because I'm looking at these numbers on not just our shorts, but everybody's shorts.
Yeah.
They're all viral. I mean, not all of them, but like it's a crazy number of views and a crazy number of hours.
And also, it's like, oh, a thing I saw for 1/2 a second view. Like, is that a view? I mean, we can talk about that all day. Is that a view? Is that audience? And that's a complicated question. Yeah. And I love that some portion of the internet audience is like, I want a newsletter that I don't have to rely on an algorithm. I want an RSS feed with a podcast in it so that it always pops up on Monday. And Joss, you said, give me the magazine that will arrive at my house. We are craving this, or at least some subset of us are craving it, and the rest of us maybe are just still scrolling TikTok. Yeah, I don't know if that's that's not a question, but it's an observation.
Yeah, I think that this is sort of the pendulum swing of whatever is being shoved in your face. You eventually start to want the thing that used to be around, and so I think that I'm hopeful in that sense, because people do seem to be tiring. I think a little bit of that really short, quick stuff.
Right. In the time we have left, how do you convince me that you are doing evidence-based work? Because there's a lot of people on YouTube telling me that they have facts. Prove it.
I mean, a big way is we just show our work. We share all of our sources. So if you don't believe if you want to fact check us, we give you the tools to do that by providing a big document that has a link to everything that we referenced when we were doing the research. And I think, we also have sort of committed to these journalistic principles. Like, if we make a mistake, we'll post a correction. We're not going to, mislead you, these sort of things. So we hope that, like, over time, you can kind of sort of gain the trust of people with that approach.
Right.
Trust is so tricky, though. I mean, it's changing so much, where the kind of processes that ensured trust in journalism before are now seen as markers of something untrustworthy by lots of people, in the sense that, oh, it's an institution and there's, people behind the scenes that are, there's editors making choices and there's a business model and all of that. That process is really hard to find in the creative economy, in terms of there being multiple eyeballs on something. Sometimes, like, these publications still have fact checkers whose job is to double check things. And the way that the face has hacked human trust is a little bit concerning to me. It's obviously something we're trying to capitalize on as people who have kind of put our face in our work to more or less degrees. We're kind of leaning into them more now because of this clear tendency that we have to believe something when we hear and see the person that's saying it.
Right.
But we hope that by kind of showing our process and our curiosity, by citing our sources and interviewing the people that are close to the work that we're covering, by working from primary source documents rather than summarizing some report, some article that's been published already, all that stuff are things that we're trying to do to signal that, like, we're the real deal. Like, this is laborious, and it should be. But it's hard to know whether that appears different from a narrated explainer that was written by ChatGPT, and the voice is also AI, and the videos are stock footage. Like, we see those doing really well on YouTube too. So
you should
I'm
do
not
that.
Sure.
You'll make more money.
Never. I will walk into the forest and plant carrots before I do that kind of video.
So actually, this is interesting to me because I'm wrestling with it. Obviously, what you described is pure slop that will come for us all and destroy humanity. But AI, generative AI in general, do you find, does it have a place in your work to sort of parse data or generate visuals that you would otherwise take so long or so much complexity? Like, or are you fully like anti-generative?
Not anti.
We're struggling with it. We have like a sort of a group that meets and talks about this stuff. We're going to meet up in a couple weeks.
Okay.
So we're struggling with it. We're trying to figure out how to use it. I think for me, I'm a little bit more of a downer about AI in terms of its capabilities than Joss, I think, because I often find, in terms of using it for a research process, that it's hallucinating so much that it's actually making more work for me.
You have to undo. You have to parse through the mistakes too. Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever I try to get it to help me with my research and story development process, I'm often left very frustrated.
Have you tried deep research, Adam?
I haven't tried deep research because I don't have $200.
Is that the Chinese one that was like?
This is where the difference between Adam and I being the level of online that we are, that I'm kind of following every twist and turn. And the thing about this technology is that it is changing from week to week. And I have been trying to find the point where it's useful over the past like few years, couple years, both in the image space and in the text generation space. And it is, I've spent a lot of time worrying about hallucinations. And I think I've gotten to the point where I think that the average person is more likely to be informed if they interact with ChatGPT than if they interact with the internet without ChatGPT, if that makes sense.
It does,
and that's a big change for me, because I've been really skeptical of these things and very frustrated with the hallucinations and wary of the role that this is playing. I remain wary of the role in general on education, on media. But in terms of misinformation, I think that AI could have a surprisingly good effect on giving people a more balanced presentation in response to their questions than what they would otherwise get from the creator economy, basically.
Yeah. Asterisk, if the tech companies use it responsibly and show the work, which some are and some aren't. And then I think about it as like, hey, we've had Google search for a long time. Guess what? Clicking on the first thing at the top of Google isn't always the right answer. And sometimes it rarely is. And so is it a educational problem or is it a AI problem? And I wake up every day with a different answer sometimes.
Well, and it is unreasonable to expect people to become investigative researchers on everything that they come across. And I feel like when I was coming up as a teenager and in college, when I was logging online and reading all the blogs, which kind of set the course of my whole career, reading like Ezra Klein and Matt Iglesias when I was younger, and basically feeling like every time I logged on, I came out more informed than before. That has just not been the case. Like, we had this wonderful era of Wikipedia, and we still have these great spaces like Reddit where people are volunteering information that they have come across. Tutorials on YouTube where people are not necessarily making money, but they're telling you something that they've learned.
And thousands of people deciding collectively, yes, this information is valuable, this is not, rather than, you said it before, Josh, like, is it a robot deciding what I'm watching, or is it a human community deciding what I'm watching and reading?
Yeah.
That
and
distinction
these
is
robots are just
important.
weird in a way that humans aren't weird, which is that they'll cite sources that are not the sources where they got the information. Like, those are hallucinations too. And the reasoning models will tell you, like, I'm searching through this and I'm doing this, and those are hallucinations too. Like, you cannot trust it to tell you about its process or the source of the information that it got. But the latent space of these models, and that they've digested the internet, is so vast that the net effect at this point of the model's development is that they are a better source of a breadth of information than almost anything else.
Yes.
Even if some pieces of that are not true, what you're getting is, and what my experience is, I've been playing with these and looking for ways for it to be useful, is that they will surface for me 10 research labs that are working on a scientific question in a way that would take me several days to kind of come up with that list via reading through different articles and the academic literature, the mainstream media, looking through the part where they cite the institution or the researcher and coming up with that list. That's been one way of getting me leads for who to talk to and which papers to read. And
exactly.
It's, I don't know if I will research without it in the future.
Yeah. It's a combing through the noise to cut down on the drudgery. Yes, that's great for AI. Synthesizing a conclusion about the work, that's less, that's a little more scary. When it comes to animation, like that strikes me as so labor intensive. Like the animation that you do and that your person does, I can't even get my head around how much work it is. And so how do you feel about generating images and video in order to shorten that? Assuming, like I've been following Adobe's image generation and video generation, and they're like, yes, all the training is done with consent and ethically. And if they can guarantee that to me, then I'd feel less gross about using those assets, job loss notwithstanding. Do you feel like that's useful to you in the future, near term?
We're trying to figure that out.
Yeah. We're dipping our toes in that. We had we don't want to ever have people wonder if what they're seeing is real or not.
Yes.
And so I think that for us, if, there's a lot of times we're working with like a diagram or a historical illustration or something like that. And so that seems like a natural place where you could use AI to bring that, 19th century illustration of a bird to life. And people aren't going to think, oh, that's a real bird because it looks like a drawing. It looks like an animated thing. So that's one of the boundaries that we're kind of trying to navigate.
Yeah. And it's so scary because people have no way of knowing now whether some piece of archive is real. And this has been controversial in the documentary film world where I wish this archive existed and now we can will it into existence through this computer model.
What do you mean an archive? What do
meaning
you mean?
Historical.
I wish I had a video of Martin Luther King meeting with this other historical figure. I mean, that's pretty extreme case, but even just people walking down the street in this one neighborhood that I want to, show at this time. I
see.
Or even I have this photo, but it's the wrong aspect ratio. So if I can expand the frame of view, it will invent the edges of the image. And all of
Just
those borderline cases.
Put it on a background. Look, if you are making a documentary, as we discussed earlier, that's like, this is what really happened and these are real places and people, then no, you can't pretend that there's people walking down the street in the neighborhood because they didn't walk there,
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's we need an establishing shot of Denver. And it's we could pay this stock library for it, or we can have it generated. And it's a little bit not true. And there's buildings that aren't really there. And does anyone notice or care about that? And how do we want these things to be disclosed? These things are completely up in the air. And the most shameless people are set up to win in this media economy.
Yes.
And so the pressures
people that
are real.
don't care and don't stop to think about it will have a huge advantage. Economically.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, one question I like to ask guests before we wrap up is, what is your single favorite piece of work that you have produced? And this could be Howtown, this could be NPR, Vox, versus the most popular or most widely viewed. And they're rarely the same.
Definitely not the same.
Do you know what your most viewed video is, Joss?
I mean, I think it's a video I did for Vox early on called Proof of Evolution You Can Find on Your Body, which is just a pretty basic explainer about vestigial structures, parts of our body that are left over from our animal ancestors.
Mhm.
The headline is,
Tailbones.
yeah, things like that, goosebumps, or it's this short we did for Howtown on the Olympics and the photo finish, how photo finish works.
Okay.
I don't have a favorite, but I'd say like I'm proud of the coverage that I've done of AI at Vox, which includes sort of an early-ish explanation of image models and a deep dive into how it's affecting education. And then I'm proud of a piece that I did about vaccine polarization, just because it felt, I don't know, really important and urgent to figure out why American conservatives had turned against the COVID vaccine and now more vaccines. And so that's like a data-driven thing that I spent months working on.
Yeah, it's great. I will be checking that out. I think I've seen the evolution one. Like, it sounds familiar.
Yeah,
It's
I
very
Is it
old.
an image of? Is it like the the caveman and then
No,
the modern man?
it's,
It's like
picture
an
now?
X-ray of a hand, I believe.
It's
I'm
the
picturing
tendon.
the thumbnail.
There's
Yeah.
a tendon that you can do this like
Yeah.
little test. And if you have this tendon, it's something that our ancestors probably used to swing through trees and,
Cool.
and we don't need it anymore. Not everyone has
Yeah.
it. But
Speak
what
for
about you,
yourself.
Adam?
I need it.
Yeah, it's a hard question because I generally have a long period after I've published something where I don't like it. And so I have to reach way back to find something that I'm like, oh, actually, this is good. I think my most viewed video, like long form video, is probably the one I did for Vox that's just about pressure. It's kind of a funny, I'm actually pretty pleased that that one is the most viewed because it's such a sort of wonky, just like physics topic. And it combined like stop motion and animation, and I wrote a little song for the end. So it was a lot of things that I was just doing for fun.
Pressure, like air pressure, or right, that stuff. Okay,
He takes
cool.
a journey,
Exactly. Pounds.
into the center of the planet and
Sweet.
beyond.
And then beyond. Yeah.
And
to
you
find
really
out
went
what
there.
happens.
You spared no
I
expense.
really
You
that was
actually
the
went to the center
documentary
of the Earth.
actually.
Oh my god, it cost millions.
It's
of dollars.
called I think we went with the title "Something Weird Happens When You Keep Squeezing." So if you want to check that one out.
Great.
Let's see. Something from that I like. I once had a video back at NPR that was just a poem about different giants that existed in the past, like a giant version, the biggest rodent that ever lived, the biggest, rhinoceros that ever lived. And it's just like 3 minutes of wordplay. And I really like that one.
Right, love it.
And there are some shorts where there's some of our shorts where Adam has written original music.
Love it.
And there are some of our best shorts, and they're sprinkled in with our other content, and people keep asking, like, can we do more? But Adam has this whole talent of writing songs about science that we have not fully tapped into, but hopefully we will in the future.
Yeah.
People also comment that they hate it more than life itself. So
polarizing.
it's really polarizing a thing. I'm a little afraid to put it out there.
Call up They Might Be Giants for a collab, and let's get the tour going.
There you go.
Oh, speaking of collabs, bringing notable internet personalities onto Howtown to say, what are you curious about? And then you do a whole episode about COVID deaths or animal sentience. I get that. I get the strategy. I know what you're doing there. Has it paid off? Are Hank Green's audience like filtering into Howtown because they see his face in a thumbnail? Is that a thing?
Not totally sure.
I think that the thing that it's indicative of the level of like generosity and support that is in the like science YouTube community, which has definitely helped us out in other ways. These people very kindly like volunteering their time to talk with us and be in our videos has not resulted in like incredible, viewership gains. But, it's so hard to tell because at the end, we don't know what would have happened if we didn't do that. Right.
Sure.
Like all of this stuff is like that we're on this one path and we don't know what's making us successful or unsuccessful, really.
Right. It doesn't hurt. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's,
couldn't hurt. And it's just, it's very nice that they did that. I think the thing that is more helpful is if we went on other people's channels so that because their audience is not necessarily going to come find our channel and see that their favorite creator is in our thumbnail. But they will watch every video on their favorite creator's channel. And if we're in it, maybe that will help a little bit.
Yep, that makes sense.
So see
all
us
right.
soon on Johnny Harris's channel.
Oh, okay.
That's
all
right.
we've-
May 15th, Josh will appear in a Johnny Harris video.
Sweet. All right. Before I let you go, what's coming up? Can you tease a future Howtown video or a project? Are you allowed to share here?
Well, in just a little over a week, we're going to publish a video about how we investigate the creatures of the deep sea and how they'll be affected by this new deep sea mining boom that is looming.
Cool.
And then after that, we got to figure out what we're going to do.
Yeah. And that actually, the deep sea biology piece might coincide with the publishing of this podcast, Matt.
Yes,
so it
when you're
It'll be
hearing this,
tomorrow.
it'll be
It'll come
Wednesday,
out.
the 14th of May. So yes, we
right.
will. So I will link to this deep sea video, and I will certainly be watching it. Oh, you can't see my shirt, but I have some sea creatures on my shirt here from the
Very
Natural
nice. I
History
see the
Museum.
top of a whale.
The top of a whale here. Joss and Adam, thank you so much for being my guest on Influence. I love the show. I love the channel, and I wish you the best of success. Please, we need you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks so
Matt.
much.
Appreciate it.
Are you a resident of Howtown? Well, I encourage you to move there, take up residence, and find a little spot, find a street corner of Howtown to hang out in, and check out Joss and Adam's videos, explainers, shorts. Check out the Patreon if you want some discussion, some behind the scenes. A book club with scientific papers? No thanks. But we can support their work however we feel comfortable. Thanks for hanging out with me for another week. I appreciate that. Coming up on is it the next episode? Maybe 2 episodes from now. The illustrious Grace Helbig, the vlogger, podcaster, yet another in that I would say early to maybe second wave of YouTubers who were part of the establishment of early YouTube culture. She's wonderful. I reached out to her. We had met before and worked on something long ago. And I said, you probably don't remember me, but what if you come on the podcast? And she said, yes, let's do it. So I'm very excited to talk to Grace and catch up with her. She's done a lot of things since those days. And if you have questions for her, or if you're a fan of Grace, I implore you to email the show, influencepod69@gmail.com. You can send a message on the Patreon. You can at me on the Discord, where other listeners gather and hang out, and I post screenshots of stupid news that's going on the internet, and then we all yell about it. Come on in there, hang out. And until next time, I implore you to please be kind, rewind your podcast after listening, and I will talk with you in 1 to 2 weeks' time.